These next videos are jam-packed with technologies that are expected to have widespread consequences for human life in the coming years. Life moves pretty fast, doesn't it? So consider these life-changing advancements and steps in the right direction, towards the future. Face it, it's coming whether we like it or not. And the smart people who created this stuff clearly get the memo. Innovation has just entered the chat. So go gadget galore, tech heads of the world unite. You get it. 15 emerging technologies that'll change our world, part 2. Human hibernation pods. In the future, trips to other planets for humans would take months to complete. So hibernation has been proposed as an effective way to make long trips seem like they happen quickly. It's a long way to Mars. At its closest, it's still 35 million miles away from Earth, meaning that depending on how fast you're traveling, it'll still take at least 5 months. But there might be a way to make the journey less taxing. Hibernation. Apparently, it's not only for the realm of science fiction. The concept would involve using individual pods to put humans into hibernation using a yet undiscovered drug. These same pods could function as tiny cabins for when the astronauts are awake. The hibernation method would allow humans to retain their muscle and bone mass. Physically, this is very important. Various systems, including artificial intelligence, would be used to keep the spaceship operational while the humans were asleep. The hibernation pods themselves would help keep the humans protected. They could be shielded from deep space radiation. One of the biggest threats travelers will face will be during the 180-day mission to Mars. Plus, trips involving human hibernation pods would make it possible to use smaller spacecraft. Fasten your seatbelts because it's time for today's sweet topic. Time travel. What is it and why do we love it? After seeing an image like this, some sort of orbital structure seemingly arriving back in time, there are the first questions that come to mind. Everyone can travel in time. You do it whether you want to or not, at a rate of 1 second per second. You might think there's no similarity to traveling in one of these spatial dimensions at, say, 1 foot per second, but according to Albert Einstein's theory of relativity, space and time are interchangeable. Thanks, genius. But this isn't the kind of time travel that's captivated countless science fiction writers or spurred a genre so extensive that search results list over 400 flicks about the subject. Movies about time travel. In multimedia franchises like Star Trek and Back to the Future, characters climb into some inventive vehicle, like this, to blast into the past or spin into the future. Once the characters have traveled through time, they grapple with changing the past or present based on information from the future. Then we're vibing with parallel universes or alternate timelines. It's really deep, and it's fun to think about, but unfortunately, not possible yet. So if you could time travel, where would you go? And what would you do? Comment below and let the world know using hashtag #SweetTopic. Luxury space balloons. Tourism on our planet is one thing, but space tourism is a new frontier. In fact, it's already happening. The idea of space tourism was once thought to be more science fiction than reality, but with the rise of space travel, all bankrolled by billionaire entrepreneurs, the burgeoning industry promises to be one of the next great endeavors of our lifetime. Now throw into the mix a space balloon company that offers passengers the chance to observe the Earth from 20 miles up. A US-based company unveiled its giant balloon venture, and so far it has sold more than 600 tickets at $125,000 a pop. However, whether it truly constitutes spaceflight is a matter of debate. The balloon will not reach orbit. Instead, it will get to an altitude of 20 miles. 62 miles above sea level is the internationally recognized space border, but 20 miles is still far higher than commercial planes. Plus, we'd be doing it in style. As well as a cocktail bar, the space lounge inside the balloon's capsule includes Wi-Fi connectivity and subdued ambient lighting. The trip includes 2 hours up, 2 hours gliding, and a 2-hour down voyage, which ends with an ocean splashdown. And the company pitches itself as a greener, zero-emissions alternative to rocket fuels. Seaweed clothes. Fast fashion is a term used to define a highly profitable business model that's based on copying and replicating high-end fashion and are purposefully designed with a limited lifespan. It also creates not only long-term and potentially irreversible environmental damage, but exacerbates the effects of climate change. Seaweed to the rescue! A biotech startup has turned to producing durable seaweed yarns. The company aims to conserve the maritime ecosystem while creating a sustainable and ethical fiber that can be processed into textiles for the fashion industry. The company also emphasizes a circular production cycle. Materials that are no longer needed become food for microorganisms in the sea and on land. Seaweed is therefore an ideal material for sustainable textile production. To produce the yarn, the research team extracts a substance called alginate from seaweed or algae. The alginate is combined with other renewable biopolymers for further processing. The biodegradable fiber is strong and plastic enough to be knitted into a textile. It's also suitable for use in 3D printed processes. The yarn gets its color from natural pigments too. The entire production process also has a very low carbon footprint. Underwater data. Recently, Microsoft sank a data center off the northeastern coast of Scotland in a wild experiment. That data center has now been retrieved from the ocean floor, and researchers are assessing how it's performed and what they can learn from it about energy efficiency. The idea behind it is that no humans add up to fewer failures, and they were right. Their first conclusion is that the cylinder packed with servers had a lower failure rate than a conventional data center. When the container was hauled off the seabed around half a mile offshore after being placed there in 2018, just 8 out of the 855 servers on board had failed. The team is speculating that the greater reliability may be connected to the fact that there were no humans on board, and that nitrogen rather than oxygen has pumped into the capsule. It might sound like an outlandish idea, but its developers think the project has great potential and organizations facing a natural disaster or a terrorist attack might find it attractive. As for the underwater data, the white cylinder emerged from the cold waters with a coating of algae, barnacles, and sea anemones after a day-long operation. But inside, the data center was functioning well. Banana fingers. You'd be forgiven for mistaking this as a bunch of ripe bananas. At first glance at this object, that's exactly what it looks like. But it's so much more. It's actually a new assistive glove featuring what its developers call banana fingers. They're inflatable, and when pumped up, they allow the glove to grip objects, including a soda can or a tennis ball. The team's glove can be worn by a human to supplement finger muscle movement, minimizing the amount of muscle activity needed to complete tasks and motions. This could hold a lot of potential for those with injury, limited mobility, or other trauma to the fingers. So researchers developed an autonomous knitting machine that can knit soft devices like the banana fingers. It uses a machine knitting process, not dissimilar to your grandma's plastic needle knitting, but this machine operates autonomously. A human designer simply specifies the stitch and sensor design patterns to program how it will move. Banana fingers are compliant and flexible, and combined with intelligent materials, have become the backbone of many robots and assistive technologies. Plus, the conductive yarn allows for sensing, which means the banana hand can feel what it's touching. Water bikes. Soon, we all could be riding a bike on water. The world's first water bike replicates the cycling experience using foiling technology, creating a surreal sensation of flight. Now we can cycle along ocean coastlines, train along waterways, or cruise lakeside with friends and family. During operation, it looks and feels a lot like riding a bicycle, but it doesn't have any wheels, so it technically isn't one. It can also be used on the 70% of the planet where there simply aren't any trails, rivers, lakes, and oceans. The foils are made of a strengthened carbon fiber set with a high-performance epoxies, the body from aircraft-grade aluminum, and the internal buoyancy modules from vacuum-sealed ASA plastics. The current model has 7 battery assist modes or speeds. At least 7, simply turning the cranks activates the motor at full power and provides over 450 watts of assistance. That's enough to get the bike up and foiling. You can launch the hydrofoiler on your own too. The easiest of these is a platform launch off a floating dock, pontoon, or the back swim platform of a boat. The company, based in New Zealand, created the first consumer-ready model, the Manta 5 Hydrofoiler XE1. Join the thousands of enthusiasts around the globe pioneering cycling's new frontier. Cryopreservation. Cryonics is the low-temperature freezing and storage of human remains with the hope that resurrection may be possible in the future. Can we use cryopreservation to cheat death? Some experts think so. However, it's regarded with skepticism within the mainstream scientific community. Early attempts of cryonic preservations were performed in the 1960s and 70s, which ended in failure. But that was then. This is now. On a smaller scale in medicine, freezing is an extremely useful technique for storing living cells, such as blood cells, bone marrow, and embryos, at ultra-low temperatures. But scientists agree that preserving and reawakening the complete human body is a remote possibility that would take massive breakthroughs in technology. What happens to the body? After death, researchers trained in cryonics take care of the body and start the process of freezing. At this stage, dry ice is used to keep the body at a low temperature. Patients are infused with cryoprotectants like antifreeze to prevent ice crystal formation, which would kill cells. Before the temperature is slowly lowered and they're preserved in liquid nitrogen. The eventual aim is that one day the people preserved will be rewarmed and revived, but there's no evidence or guarantee that that can happen. GAIT recognition. Human recognition technologies could make it extremely difficult to move through the world without being under a constant state of surveillance, and facial recognition has made it to the mainstream and is a relatively secure method of securing mobile devices, for example. However, what happens when faces are obscured or hidden by clothing? Experts have come up with a GAIT recognition software to fix that problem. Instead of recognizing people by their faces, it can identify human subjects based on their body shape and how they walk. Unlike facial recognition, which requires close-up high-resolution images, GAIT recognition is capable of identifying people from over 165 feet away without the subject ever directly facing a camera. Even with backs turned, the technology is said to be highly effective. For those thinking they can try to walk differently to avoid identification, it apparently isn't that easy. GAIT analysis can't be fooled by simply limping or hunching over because this technology analyzes all the features of an entire body. But over time, as optimizations are made and compute hardware improves, it will not be long before true real-time GAIT analysis is possible. Carbon dioxide creations. According to a new clutch of carbon-to-value startups, booze, fuel, protein, and clothing, these are just some of the things that can be manufactured from thin air. We'll explain. Researchers aim to take air, or to be more precise, the carbon dioxide in it, and transform it into something useful, as plants also do, eliminating damaging emissions in the process. Taking the unwanted gas wreaking havoc on our climate and using only water and renewable electricity, an electrolyzer transforms the CO2 into synthesis gas, a mix of carbon monoxide and hydrogen that can be made into a range of familiar products usually made from fossil fuels. Oxygen is the only byproduct. This is a new way of moving carbon through our economy without pulling it in out of the ground. And recently, the pilot-scale equipment made the world's first carbon-neutral fossil-free jet fuel produced by electrolyzing CO2. High-end goods such as vodka, diamonds, and activewear, industrial materials such as concrete, plastics, foam, and carbon fiber, and even food are all beginning to be created using CO2. The beauty of carbon is that you make so many different things, but the industry is still only emerging. Carbon dioxide creations could be the future of major manufacturing. Air taxi. Rideshare services are getting from A to B with a couple of taps on an app are nothing new for most city folk, so it's only a matter of time before public transportation and rideshares look a lot like this. Flying taxis. A ride-sharing giant in collaboration with a car manufacturer has unveiled a previously hinted at flying taxi concept that could ultimately handle air trips. They're called urban air mobility vehicles, and they were created through a collaboration with Uber and Hyundai. And now, a flying taxi concept is a realistic approach to the future of getting around. The all-electric aircraft would take off and land vertically, carrying as many as 4 passengers. We would potentially be flying 180 miles per hour for trips as far as 60 miles in one of these air taxis. The plan is to have a flying electric vehicle suitable for intra-city transportation, where riders would be able to take to various locations within a densely populated area to lessen congestion on city streets. By using electric-powered rotors, the vehicle will produce less noise and will require only about 5 to 7 minutes of recharging. The creators are aiming for its first vehicle to receive U.S. certification by 2024, and its first commercial flight not long after. Injectable brain robots. A California-based startup has developed a nanobot about the size of a grain of rice that's designed to transport medication to the exact location in the body where it's needed. You can think of it as a tiny screw that moves through the veins as if steered by an invisible screwdriver until it arrives at a tumor, for example. If you think about it, a traditional painkiller affects the entire body instead of just the area that's hurting. And chemotherapy, for example, is flushed through all the veins instead of precisely targeting the tumor. These injectable brain robots could change all that. The nanobot contains a tiny but powerful magnet. The invisible screwdriver is an external magnetic field that rotates that magnet inside the device and gets it to move and change directions. Engineers could build the miniature vehicle even smaller, but the current size has the advantage of being big enough to see with bare eyes. It can also deliver more medicine than a tinier version. At the right location, medical experts can give a magnetic signal and it unloads its medicine. Crazy, right? A nanobot delivering targeted treatment could be a game changer. Once the technique has been perfected, further applications could include addressing other kinds of brain disorders that are considered incurable now. FOLDIMATE. Do you hate folding laundry? A lot of people do, but FOLDIMATE could put an end to all of that. So a California-based company developed this robotic laundry folding machine. FOLDIMATE was founded by a software engineer who decided that folding laundry was a tedious chore that could be done effectively by a robot and spent 2 years developing his laundry folding device. And soon after, he had a patented technology. After an initial round of investment, he produced the first prototype. The FOLDIMATE is slightly larger than a standard washing machine. The user clips this piece of clothing on 2 hooks and the item is pulled into the machine. Then a series of rollers and arms move it in all directions to straighten and fold. The machine can fold shirts, tops, trousers, and dresses, but not small pieces of clothing like underwear or large items like sheets. The folded items are returned in a stack through a window at the bottom of the machine. According to the developers, it can fold a full wash in less than 4 minutes. Previous versions included anti-wrinkling technology and fragrance features, but the product was redesigning and simplified with the aim of readying it for the market. And with a FOLDIMATE of your own, your laundry folding nightmares are over. Robot kitchen. A fully equipped kitchen has lots of convenient devices that help you get cooking done easily. But not like this. There's never been an appliance that could handle them all. Until now, that is. A London-based robotics company created the first robot chef. The robot kitchen, which took 6 years to develop, centers around 2 robotic arms that glide along a track installed in the ceiling of your kitchen. The arms are fitted with 2 articulating hands that can recreate the actions and movements of professional chefs, which have been uploaded into its memory. The company claims the ceiling-mounted device will be able to cook over 5,000 recipes and even clean up after itself when it's done. A dinner party will never be the same. You simply select what you want to eat on a touchscreen and let it go to work. Of course, there are still skills the robotic kitchen hasn't mastered yet. Because of this, you might need to handle some of the prep work yourself and then lay out the pre-weighed ingredients on the counter or in its smart fridge. It can turn on the oven, pick up and put down saucepans and spatulas, stir, whisk, and flip. Once an order is received, the robot completes the full process. Plus, these robots could reduce viruses in food and improve and maintain cleanliness and hygiene too. Robot maintenance worker. Robots are at large across the railways of Japan, and these maintenance working machines are an exciting step forward in the field of service robotics. They're meant to safeguard human life by taking on dangerous, life-threatening jobs so that workers don't have to. So far, they've been employed for repairs along power lines and for heavy maintenance tasks that they take off the hands of human workers to improve productivity and safety. The entire setup rolls around on its railway service car to wherever dangerous work is needed. In addition to keeping human workers away from dangerously high voltages, these robot repair bots will eliminate the need for workers to sit in a crane or at the top of tall platforms to get the job done. These robots can be remotely operated safely from the ground. Each bot sees the world around it through a camera mounted in place of its head. Video footage is then fed to the cockpit below, into the pilot's virtual reality set. In return, they control the robot's motions. So far, each robot can lift up to 88 pounds of weight and can rise up to 32 feet on its hydraulic crane arms. In the future, this company wants to increase machines doing dangerous tasks, such as maintenance work in hard-to-reach areas including cliffs, slopes, or areas near powerful electric currents. Flood-proof house. The loss of housing due to floods is an undeniable issue all over the world, and while engineers and architects have been trying to find solutions, few have actually proven effective. But Japanese housing developers recently unveiled a flood-resistant house that can not only remain waterproof during floods, but also float off the ground. And it's been getting a lot of attention ever since it went public. Watch as it's being put through a simulated flood. Although it looked just like an ordinary house when the test begins, by the time that water started rising around it, you can see the structure leave the ground and eventually float a few inches above it. The house is connected to a number of thick iron rods sticking out of the ground with thick cables that ensure it stays in place as the water floods past. When the waters recede, the floating house comes back down to its original position. The flood-resistant house also features special vents that close up in the event of flooding, and the plumbing also has special valves that prevent water from getting into the home. Staying dry and safe is no problem with this design. We've all seen floating houses being swept away in severe floods, but this new invention prevents that. The future is here, folks, whether we like it or not. So kudos to the creative visionaries who take bold ideas and make them a reality. It's a very exciting time to be alive on this planet. Like and subscribe if you agree. There's more where that came from.